including one of our panelists.
Welcome to this pickup group. Yeah, we will start in several minutes. Again, thank you.
let's start, no?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. We can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to join this Success 3, dive deep into life cycle refrigerant management, break up group 3, destruction of the refrigerant. Yeah, welcome all of you. Yeah, you can find the seat and I think more and more participants will join us. And the main objective of this break up group is to discuss the destruction technologies for refrigerants. This is as one important component of the life cycle refrigerant management in detail. So as you can see in this agenda, there are totally 6 items in this break up group section. This is including the opening part now, and also afterwards we will have an overall presentation on the destruction technologies, and then followed by a poll on the challenges of facing your country on the ODS waste disposal, but also potential solutions on the ODS waste final destruction. And then it's last but not least a ramp up section of today's break up group section. My name is Yunri Zhou, Industrial Development Officer in the Motor Protocol Unit of UNIDO. It's my great pleasure and honor to moderate this section with 2 experts, and Ms. Kelly Falali and also Ms. Helen Walter Teruni. And Mr. Karadi is a member of the Refrigerant Technical Operation Committee of the Motor Protocol, and also the core member of the TIP on the life cycle refrigerant management. Kelly also is the general manager of Refrigerant Reclaim Australia. This is a product still safe organization for Australia refrigerant industry. She has more than 20 years experience, and today he will give overall presentation and also facilitate the discussion. You're welcome. Thank you. And also Helen is also a member of the Technical and Economic Assessment Panel. She is also the co-chair of the Motor Protocol Foam Technical Option Committee. She is Global Director of Policy and Advocacy for Trend Technologies. Helen also worked in the refrigeration, foam, and environment protection for nearly 30 years in different countries. And today, she will facilitate the discussion, but also give the conclude our discussion. According to our agenda, we slightly delayed. We immediately go to the overview presentation. Here, please allow me to welcome Kelly to give this presentation. Yeah, the floor with you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you everybody for joining us for this session. I hope you find it useful and valuable. So we'll start off with what is destruction. So destruction is the crucial and final step in mitigating refrigerant emissions from contaminated, unwanted or redundant refrigerants. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, it's okay. I don't think it's working up here. Yeah, okay. That's it. Okay, the TEEP LRM report defines destruction as the process, when applied to controlled substances, that results in the permanent transformation or decomposition of all or a significant portion of such substances. The destruction process involves breaking down the chemical constituents whilst effectively managing any harmful byproducts. The Montreal Protocol has established a list of approved destruction methodologies for the purpose of production data reporting, which includes minimum destruction removal efficiencies, known as DRE. Destruction removal efficiencies and environmental performance may vary significantly between individual facilities utilising the same destruction technology. Some parties and subnational jurisdictions require the Montreal Protocol approved technologies and minimum destruction removal efficiencies, even when controlled substances are not being credited to production. Before destruction can occur, LRM policies, infrastructure and good practice are required. To safely and adequately implement LRM practices requires capacity building, which involves training technicians to recover refrigerant rather than venting, the handling the safety issues, as well as developing local infrastructure, equipment, tools and facilities. The tools required include leak detection, cylinders, recovery equipment, recycling equipment, testing and analysis, centralised reclamation facilities, and finally destruction facilities. You'll hear a lot about the reverse supply chain over the next few days, I'm sure, especially attending other events. So I thought I'd take a little bit of time to explain what that means. So the reverse supply chain infrastructure is essential in establishing effective LRM practices as it enables the collection of recovered refrigerant. It uses new or established distribution infrastructure in reverse for the purposes of recovering, reuse, reclamation and disposing of refrigerants. If you think about how refrigerant is distributed in your country for the purposes of new installation or for servicing refrigeration, air conditioning and heat pump equipment, if you use that same distribution channel in reverse, that's what we mean by reverse supply chain. So using that existing infrastructure backwards to gain efficiencies and convenience, as well as cost-effective sharing of the costs. So there are many challenges in LRM, and particularly destruction, that A5 parties face, and especially when we look at low volume consuming parties that have a lack or have inadequate LRM infrastructure. While some larger industrial A5 parties may have more developed infrastructure, they often require upgrades or replacements to their existing tools, equipment, and supply chain to improve LRM practices. The primary commercial constraint in destroying refrigerant is recovering large enough volumes to support capital investment in destruction, unless refrigerants are destroyed at facilities that destroy other chemicals or utilising cement kilns. Significant benefits could arise from A5 parties working together in regional groups to set up capital-intensive integrated reclamation and destruction infrastructure. Although the transboundary movement of waste under the Basel Convention is burdensome, it will require a coordinated approach. For those that are not familiar with the Basel Convention, it is the control of the transboundary movement of hazardous wastes and its disposal is an international treaty that was designed to reduce movements of hazardous waste between nations and specifically to prevent the transfer of hazardous waste being developed from developed countries to less developed countries. Is that working here? Availability and accessibility of destruction technologies also needs to be considered. Currently, there is adequate global capacity for destruction, but it is unevenly distributed between non-A5 and A5 parties. It can be anticipated that destruction technology may improve in cost, scalability, mobility and efficiency in the future. But this will depend on the timely acceleration and effectiveness of LRM practices and the HFC phase down, as well as the availability of finance to support the management of these legacy waste streams. The cost of destruction technologies is an important subject that I'm sure everyone's quite interested in. But the costs that are displayed on the screen are indicative of historical capital infrastructure cost to demonstrate the scale and range of investment required in destruction technologies. In addition to your capital operation cost, we need to be mindful of the operational expenditure costs, which will vary considerably between technologies, from country to country, and perhaps even facility to facility. The OPEX costs will cover the operational costs, such as the running of the equipment, maintenance, labour, energy consumption, quality control, there's administrative costs, and by-product management. So to conclude, there's a lot of work to be done, but as I mentioned before, that looking forward we can anticipate that destruction technology will improve in cost, scalability, mobility and efficiency to respond to the growing market and demand for end-of-life management of refrigerants. Significant benefits could arise from A5 parties working together in regional groups to set up capital-intensive integrated reclamation and destruction infrastructure. Cement kilns offer a cost-effective method for destruction as they are both accessible and affordable. And the transboundary movement could be done more efficiently and cost-effectively while potentially reducing emissions with a coordinated approach. Thank you. I'll hand back to Henri for the next session.
Thank you very much, Hailey, for your very informative and inspiring presentation. I think there might be some questions, but we will have the Q&A section afterwards. So according to agenda, we go to the next section of the agenda. We have, for today's discussion, we also have a poll. The poll is with the two questions. Actually, it's oriented the design thinking. The design thinking on the life cycle management of the refrigerant. Actually, I don't know how many of you know the design thinking. This is actually it's an interactive process that a team could use to understand the challenging assumptions, redefine the problems, and also create innovative solutions to address those problems. And it's very useful to tackle an unknown problem, mainly including the four phases. For example, there's state problem, validate problems, to avoid those ghost problems, and also identify solutions together and also validate solutions together. Considering today's discussion, the time is very limited, we prepared the 10 problems and also 10 potential solutions in advance. And we hope through the poll, you can participate in this discussion. And you can see we have two polls. This first one is regarding the challenging phase in your country regarding the final destruction. And you can scan this QR code at the right side, and then we will further discuss of the results of those challenges with all of you. We will select the top 3. You can vote for the top 3 challenges faced, and then we will know what the prioritize the challenging through your feedback. And in addition to that, this is the same QR code. We also have the second poll regarding their main solutions to environmentally sound management of the ODS waste in your country. And then we will further elaborate, according to your experience, why you think this is the most important solution to addressing this ODS waste disruption in your countries. I hope you can provide your inputs and your insights on that. And I give the 5 minutes for these two polls, and I think this is a link my colleague can share with you that the results of the poll. Yeah. Back to the question to show the QR code also. Some people maybe not see. If you have any technical issues to scan this one, vote for the poll, then we have the colleagues and can help you to do it, through the phone. I give another 3 minutes, and let's see how many response, and then we go to the discussion on that. Actually, this is the breakout section is the discussion section. I hope really you give your inputs and feedback for the discussion, and then we will invite the volunteer to elaborate, each of the priorities, either challenging but also the solutions, and to share your experience in your country, why you think this is very challenging in your country, and how this one could be addressed. And maybe you can share the results. So, thank you very much. We have 21 response. Hopefully we have more. Yeah, 23 now. 25. 27. Yeah. 30, and another 1 minute for this vote, and then we can discuss the top 3 challenges we have. Thank you again for your vote. I think the results are also very clear. Among these 10 proposed challenges, we jointly identified the top 3 challenges through the team, with your excellent support. The number 1 is insufficient financial resource. And the number 2 and 3 is lack of available technology and lack of adequate infrastructure. And I would like to start from the insufficient financial resources. I want to know who you vote for that. And I want to select 2 volunteers, just further elaborate why you think that this is the financial resources. This is a key challenging phase in your country. And maybe you can thinking about to combine one of the destruction technologies to further elaborate why this is challenging in your countries. Is there any volunteer who would like to talk first? Just raise your hand, and then I give the floor to you. I mean, this is a discussion for our breakup group, because your feedback and your experience is very, very important for us to jointly address this issue, and we will also report back to the plenary. Yeah. Anyone want to take the floor first? If no, I think, please. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for your intervention and the leading of this meeting. We are focused on the life cycle refrigerant, or we can talk about the destruction as well.
Destruction, mainly focus on the destruction.
Because in the case, I am the representative from Cuba, and we were included in the pilot projects in 2009, 2010, and we've been having a serious trouble to continue destroying our refrigerants that were collected during the first early days of this century in my country, trying to renovate all the infrastructure of equipments to equipments very more, let's say, effective and better equipments in saving electricity and other resources. But in the case of my country, the technology was attached to a cement factory, which due to the economy and the contraction of the economy in the last years, it's been a very slowly production of cement, and because of that, and a slowly reduction of refrigerant. And but we've been being contacted by companies, in this case by 2 companies, that they are interested on getting this refrigerant to export, trying to see in the carbon economy the prices, and this is going to be the negotiation we are now. But we heard in the morning the representative of the United States, I think, talking in the last slide about the innovative destruction technologies, because always, of course, the cement kiln is it's one of the more cost-effective technology, but many years has passed since 2010, and my question is just to know which are these innovative technologies, because, for example, we've been reading about technologies to burn the waste in the disposal areas, and with this waste to generate electricity. Maybe this kind of technologies has the temperature enough to be accepted. I don't know, I'm thinking on countries like Singapore or South Korea or other countries which are destroying the garbage and also generating electricity. So we like to see first which are these innovative technologies, because as many years has passed, and also if there are studies about the carbon market and the pricing, which are the most effective methodology today to calculate this. Because when these companies approach to us, we don't have any idea of what we have in our hands, what is the value we have in our hands, in order to be more capable to negotiate with them. Because if not, we are not pretending to get funds, maybe will be an outcome of this business to have technology for the new gases, because we know they are more inflammable and they have to be managed with more careful, and they need different valves. So all these issues we need to know, because if you go to the internet and you try to study it, you will find different methodologies, different values, which is going to be the one more accepted for all, in order to have a real idea of what we have in our storage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kuba, for your feedback. And I would like to give the floor to Kelly to give a quick response regarding innovative technologies, especially some of the costs of those technologies, and also perhaps also together with their carbon credit, as you mentioned. Yeah. And also Helen, yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. That was some question. Where do I start? When we look at destruction technologies, the cement kiln, as you rightly said, is probably one of the most simple and accessible and cost-effective technologies, but that will obviously depend it being utilised for the production of cement. And you mentioned that was a limitation. There are other technologies which are, available. I'm not familiar with the integrated waste technology. I don't know whether Helen, you could add in. Yeah, Helen might be able to comment on that shortly, because that could be an option, and we see that that technology is available. You would need to depend on the country's regulation if there's any destruction removal efficiency requirements. And things associated with the destruction. In some jurisdictions there is, and other areas there's not. So I think that's a challenge. If we look at the carbon credit market, that is a volatile, if you like, way of funding, because the price will vary depending on demand and a range of other factors. And I think that one of the challenges with utilising the carbon market that you might face, given that the refrigerant is, I'm assuming, is already recovered in cylinders, is you may not have the traceability required to earn the carbon credits in the first place, depending on what the requirements are in both the voluntary and the compliance markets. Did you want to add anything to that, Helen?
Let's see. So I think as we think about these destruction technologies, one of the ways that they can be used they can use the waste heat. So plasma arc, for example, temperatures are 3,000 degrees. Other technologies run around 1,000, 1,600, like the cement kiln technologies. And so there is ability to use that waste heat either in industrial processes or food manufacture, pharmaceutical processing, and other ways. I think, like you said, Kylie, I think that there are several different markets for carbon credits. The voluntary market, and then the compliance market. And I think I've seen pricing, and I think it was in the report about in the compliance market, it was around $25 per kilogram of CO2. But as Kylie said, the dollars kind of go up and down depending on kind of negotiations around those, and confirming that it's a legitimate credit can be a little bit challenging sometimes. So I think that this is a discussion, so we're eager to hear your comment. Yeah.
I would like to know, Kuba, this is address your question. Now, this is yeah.
Yes, I like to thank the answers, and it take us to a new path, to try to find out the solutions. But at the same time, I think this reflection maybe would be useful for the protocol, because sometimes we were so focused on trying to produce some cement to destroy and to accomplish with the protocol. And now when this company approached to us, it opens a new scenario for us. But it would be very helpful if the protocol could at least identify which centers in each region could be on this position of getting these gases that it is needed to be destroyed, because maybe it will accelerate the process. And for example, the amounts of my country to be destroyed, the compromises with the protocol, they are not so high. So with the proper information, maybe it would be very helpful for us to redirect and to interact with these countries where there are facilities for destruction, and to facilitate and accelerate the issue of accomplishing with the protocol in the first time. Because in a way we see the issue, this process will continue. So we are destroying now gases of our interest to be destroyed because they are, blends and, it is needed. But the cycle continues. You continue importing refrigerant and continue using it. But then arrive the moment of even of recycling or destroying. So it's regenerating or destroying. So it is the issue where it is the moment where things getting worse and more difficult for us. So the first is very easy. You go to a country, you import gases, you pay, you import the gases, and then you use it. And then this is, in the life cycle, it is the process. But the last part of the process is the one, it is more important, because it's when you can have the leakage and the spray to the atmosphere. It's the moment more difficult for us, the destruction. That's why we are here now, and it's very interesting the answer you provide. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Because thank you very much, Kuba. Yeah, I give the floor to India. Yeah, also the question. Of course, we can continue the discussion. Yeah, also. Yeah. Please, the floor with you.
Thank you. I'm Chandra. I'm from civil society, non-party. Okay. I want to bring your notice to something which only 2 people have voted, which is institutional capacity. So while finance is an obvious impediment, I believe that what goes with finance is capacity to implement things. And we are talking about millions of air conditioners and millions of equipments from where we want to collect this waste and process and destroy. Now, one is, of course, the role of private sector. Okay? Is private sector incentivized enough to do this? But second is also the role of compliance and enforcement, for which institutional capacity is important. Now, even if you look at developed world, where recovery and destruction is happening, overall, not even 10 to 15% of refrigerants are practically collected and destroyed, okay? Depending on what definition you are going to use for life cycle management of refrigerants. So apart from the fact that finance and technology are an important issue, I would like to ask you, where do you see how Montreal Protocol or cooperation between countries can enhance institutional capacity in A5 countries?
Thank you very much for your feedback and also your thinking regarding the challenge regarding the institutional capacity. I think, Halil, would you like to give a quick response to that? Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, Helen, yeah.
Let's go. Okay, thanks for your question. I think that this is where local, party policy really can come into play. It seems like there's an appetite in your country to do the right thing by, the recovery, the reclamation and things there. That practice can be supported by good policy from the government of your country to support, put rules, conditions and supports in place to encourage, or penalise people doing the right or the wrong thing. So I think that the policy is the key to progress it from good activity to a comprehensive approach.
In the LRM report, there's quite a lengthy section on different policies around the world, and I think that it was broken out into kind of different categories. So whether it's I think, I don't know if everyone calls it this, but maybe white goods returns, so refrigerators and small pieces of equipment and kind of extended producer responsibility, returning it someplace and having the refrigerant removed. So there's kind of a group of policies around that. There's a group of requirements or recommendations around certification and training for contractors, so developing that capability in the workforce, as well as requirements around leak management and end-of-life treatment of refrigerants. So it's kind of broken out into sections with pulling, from different countries or different parties around the world and the policies that they have in place. And I think we heard some interesting examples this morning. So that's beyond the report, but we heard from Australia and Europe and others, Ghana and others around their implementation. In some cases, I don't know if this translates well, but like the carrot and the stick, right? The encouragement or the punishment of those those actions. So I think there's quite a bit of information from the different parties in the report if that is helpful.
Can I just respond for a minute?
Yeah, please.
Thank you for your answer, but your answer will fall within the framework of policy and regulation. The LRM report is actually silent on institutional capacity. Okay, we are talking about what policies and regulations have been implemented in different countries. From policy to enforcement, in between is institution. The capacity of institution to convert policy into actual action. That part is missing in LRM report, is something that we need to think carefully, because that gap we sometimes forget to address.
Thank you very much for the feedback from India. Actually, now the multilateral fund to support all the member countries for their inventory and also the development of the national action plan. I think this is a good opportunity to further identify the gap regarding, as you mentioned, the institutional capacity building, especially for the enforcement. And in the future, if there are new funding window for the holistic of the HFC or the waste containing the ODS waste, this is also good opportunity the country can consider to further enhance this institutional capacity for the final destruction of their waste containing ODS and HFCs. Yeah, this is good. I give the floor to other participants. There, another one, I think from here, please take the floor. And also Fukuya, yeah, there's another one, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Facilitator. Good morning, everyone. So first, let me apologize for my delayed entry. You are begging us to respond to why the numbers at 21 is higher. From my perspective, I speak subject to correction, but from my understanding, in the developed countries, a lot of the destruction facilities are privately owned. We have the curious situation within A5 parties that the government is the one being identified as being responsible for dealing with destruction and coming up with ideas for destruction facilities and so on. So for us, the reason why the insufficient financial resources was selected is because we all know that as Article 5 countries, we have to make life and death decisions every day because of our limited economic capacity. So realistically, I'm the National Ozone Officer in Barbados, so sorry. Realistically then, if our governments are forced to make choices in relation to education or fixing roads or healthcare, those will always be prioritized over destruction facilities. So I think what would be important for me to understand is how we could try to stimulate the idea of the development of the private sector to start seeing destruction as a profitable business, because for us, it is not seen as profitable within stakeholders in the country. So that's an important discussion for us. So financing externally would be very beneficial for us at this point, even though it is on a project-by-project basis, which we know, based on the intervention from Cuba and other countries that would have benefited from demonstration projects, that is not sustainable. Really and truly, the financial resources are required to drive the various other factors, especially things like institutional capacity and so on. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Regarding this one, you would like to give a quick response? Or yeah.
I mean, I can use Australia as an example. Yeah. The funding is always going to be a challenging discussion when you've got, said limited economic capability or ability. One of the models that was discussed this morning, and one that I'm particularly familiar with, is the Australian model for LRM, where there's levies raised for various activities through the LRM or the policy infrastructure with regards to the program. So where a small levy is charged on a per kilo basis, that levy is largely passed on through the supply chain. But the levy that's collected both by the government funds the government's administration of the program. There's a levy charged for participation in product stewardship, which funds a not-for-profit organisation funding the administration of the product stewardship program, but it also uses those funds to supply to commercial entities for the destruction. So the levy's raised through various aspects of the licensing program and associated regulations, basically fund various activities that are allocated for LRM specifically. And that could be a model that could be useful for some parties.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Considering the time issue, we have give another two floor. Fukuya, please, and then Indonesia. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to give you a fresh, hopefully, perspective from the cement industry. My name is Fukuya Ino. I'm the unit representative in Thailand and this region. I visited, also for those of you who have been working in the alternative fuel for the cement industry, I believe you know for me, the GIZ alternative fuel guidance has been a Bible for me. But I visited many cement kilns. As you said, it's a waste, right? So for them, it's impurities. They don't want it. But the situation in the cement industry, unlike other energy-intensive sector, they are becoming desperate to get more decarbonization options. They sent me directly already carbon capture proposal. Steel industry, they still have some other ways, options to go before carbon capture. But now cement industry is always getting to that point. So even in Thailand, we have, I understand, I've never visited, maybe I will visit, maybe next year we can arrange a tour. Even in Thailand, we have now, I don't want to call it waste, but for now, waste to product process. So now cement kiln directly receiving municipal waste. And then because that, it helps reduce carbon emissions. So I believe before, and then we go to the industrial waste, I think that's our first step. And then at this moment, the cement industry is buying the waste. But hopefully they can get paid to receive waste so that the more partnership, public-private partnership is there, so that the countries like Thailand or maybe other countries can also deal with municipal waste in a better manner. And then the cement industry can deal with this cement with more incentives in that sense. So I agree with institutional capacity needed for that. But in terms of technologies, I think it's already there. We just have to get to the industry's serious commitment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fukuya. Considering timing issue, I really appreciate each one. You can give your really valuable feedback in 3 minutes. I give the Indonesia first, and then here, yeah. And then we go to the solutions. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Just as our other colleague already mentioned, that kind of innovative funding solution is challenging for us. And some of you already mentioned about the market, the carbon market, which is falls under the UNFCCC, the Paris Agreement, Article 6. Just wondering, because we do have our mandates in Montreal Protocol. And if I'm not mistaken, the voluntary carbon market is still ongoing under discussion and negotiation for the 6.4. And hopefully, this upcoming COP will be then deliver the adopted decisions. But I just want to raise one of the principle of the carbon market or carbon market mechanism under the Article 6.4, that the principle of additionality will be then crucial in this one. Kylie already mentioned as well that every country has their own regulation. And think Indonesia already have the stipulated the presidential decree on this number 98 on year 2022, and we put that additionality principle on that kind of criteria. So maybe because you already asked about how, this Montreal Protocol will be kind of give the roles for this carbon pricing mechanism. So maybe we can start to identify the methodologies, because it is different if we're talking about the methodology under the Article 6.4, because under the 6.4, they also mention about the CDM, the transition on the CDM to Article 6.4. So maybe that kind of contribution from the technical or substance for the from the Montreal Protocol will be beneficial if the 6.4 already then adopted. So maybe that's from Indonesia. Thank you.
So thank you very much. The feedback from Indonesia. Actually, in the afternoon session, the plenary also further discussed regarding the financial mechanism. I think the methodology regarding what you suggest is very relevant and also useful for this discussion. Thank you very much. I give the floor to yeah.
Hello, thank you for the floor. This is Trinidad and Tobago. I have a few questions about the challenges aspect and align with the distinguished delegate from Barbados, the similar theme in terms of getting buy-in from private sector. I would love to hear some of these strategies employed in terms of, is there a minimum amount of refrigerant needed for trial destruction? Or how does, like when we're speaking or trying to convince private sector, how does the retrofit process or the contaminants themselves affect the final product? And I see the distinguished delegate from Mexico is in the room. I didn't get a chance to ask on plenary, but I was also curious to know what were some of the prerequisite activities undertaken to get approval from COPA for that destruction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a very good question. I give the floor to Haile regarding the amount of the refrigerant could be collected from the country for the disposal. Very good. Yeah.
I think, so a couple of different things around this, especially for parties with very small refrigerant collection needs. There is a list in the report of the location of destruction facilities around the world. I don't know if people saw that. There are some limits under Basel to the export and import and movement, depending on definitions, as you heard this morning and maybe read in the report. And so I think, there are some parties that specifically accept refrigerant for destruction within their country, and some of those are listed out in the report. I mean, I think if we look at the investments levels that Kylie showed earlier, that those threshold from a cement kiln perspective, it's a bit lower. Cement kiln, there has to be a little bit of careful management about the amount of refrigerant that goes into the process. And to the discussion we heard earlier from Cuba, if you're not making cement, what are you to do? But I think, from a quantity perspective, I think we're looking at significant quantities, Kylie, to kind of justify that cost in that millions of dollars of scale.
Would you mind putting the slide up that had the destruction costs? I think that would be useful.
So I think this begs that for servicing only parties or parties with very low volumes, what is to be done? I think that raises that question.
Do you mind if I just add, there is potential for regional collaboration. I think that's especially an important focus for low volume consuming countries. If there's an opportunity for regional collaboration for reclamation and destruction, then that's something that should be explored.
So thank you very much. I think before we go to the other questions, other volunteers, we can also jointly discuss regarding solutions. Actually, the challenging also link with the solution because we only have about 17 minutes. So therefore, I would like to firstly share with you the top 3 solutions according to your really valuable feedback. You can see that this is quite linked with those challenges, including number 1 is regarding the enhanced financial incentive from the Multilateral Fund Secretariat. And then number 2 is stressing the national regulation and the enforcement. And then number 3 is promoting the adoption of the best available technologies. I think according to this feedback, I would like to further give the floor to you for questions. Again, yeah, India, yeah, please. Okay, yeah, and India and also Mexico, yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. And definitely destruction plays an important role in entire LRM. And we need some clarification about that. What are the component you have considered to quantify the cost for that retrofitting of the existing system? And second one is that whether you have included the cost for emission monitoring system or not. And third one is the capacity building emission monitoring system, because it requires during the destruction equipment. And third one is that whether any cost for the capacity building for the regulator or for the facility owner that you have considered in this case or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The question from India related with the cost of the technology, but also regarding the capacity building. I give the floor to Ellie. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, with regards to the cost, there's a broad range there for the retrofitting of the cement kiln, because it will vary from region to region. And the requirements for the atmospheric monitoring or stack emissions will also be dependent on regional requirements. That's why there's such a big bracket. There's, the price doubles for the infrastructure for the retrofitting of the cement kiln. So it can be, depending on your requirements, it can be basic infrastructure, which does destruction only without the requirement for monitoring. And it could be a lot more expensive the more controls you put in place with that, which is in line with the bracket. And then there's also, as I said, the operation costs that would need to be considered if it was a commercial entity, then that would need to be considered on top of the initial investment costs. As far as capacity building, did you want to add anything to that, Helen? Yeah.
I did want to add, there is some energy savings with the cement kiln and the manufacture of cement. And I'm not sure if that was factored into the report or not, Kylie. So but there is some savings there that from an operational perspective for consideration.
Thank you very much. Okay, please.
One thing there. There may be some efficiencies as well once the bank or the inventory transitions to flammable, because you could be adding calorific value to the kiln as far as heat goes. It'll be small, but it's something to be considered once we're moving to destroying flammable refrigerants. It's certainly something that can be factored into the efficiencies.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, the cost is for the different country also is different. As I mentioned, that's Multi-Lateral Fund also supporting country to develop the national action plan. For each country, I think it was suggested that you can also put your budget regarding the updating or establishment of new facilities for the final destruction in your national action plan. Notice in the future, the country may be considered to request more funds from Multi-Lateral Fund if there are new funding window for their final destruction, but also thinking about the integrated approach, including the facility itself, but also the operational costs and also the capacity building costs. I think this is could be considered. Thank you. And then I give the floor to Mexico. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you to the question, because it's quite fitting with what I wanted to add to the discussion. The process was not a easy one, implementing the project with COPA, because our first effort was to try to add a cement kiln as an alternative in other part of the country, different from the one that we knew about in 2015, 2016. And so we sent a letter and we had communication with the Chamber of Cement Manufacturers in Mexico, there's a lot of cement plants. And asking for their expression of interest. And it ran for close to 3 months, and we didn't get any interest at all. And that has to do with the size of the batches that results interesting for the cement plant to destroy. And when we are talking about small batches of substances to be destroyed, it's not attractive to them. That was one problem. And the second one is that actually the goal of getting another cement kiln in the project was to update the data about the costs that we had from the previous experience in 2015, 2016, because that's the only reference. So if there's any interest, they would not be willing to destroy for anything less than what they were paid under the demonstration project. So it's kind of a nocive incentive that we wanted to get away with the updated information. So that was very complicated. Fortunately, from our contact with recycling and generation centers, we knew about the potential of one incinerator. It's not a cement kiln, it's a rotary kiln, but for other kinds of substances that was already in place. And they just had to make adaptations, and that would be enough to comply with the approved methodologies under Montreal Protocol. So we visited them like 2 months ago and explored the feasibility of the project. Unfortunately, it was possible. So now the COPA project was redirected to the conversion of that rotary kiln. And the advantage is that the volume of the substances to be destroyed are much smaller. So we think that that's going to be an alternative to cement kilns for our centers that don't manage big volumes of substance. So we'll see, and that's what we are looking for in the result of the project. So, but we had to be very, very creative in how to actually take advantage of what was provided by COPA.
Thank you very much, Mexico, for sharing your experience, especially the two technologies. It's quite useful for us to know the costing issue and also the two pilot projects, which are under the framework of the Marshall Fund and also COPA. It's very helpful. And Helen, you want to add some?
Okay.
Okay. I think we still have several minutes. We can open the floor for last volunteer who want to. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Makoto Kato from the Overseas Environmental Cooperation Center, Japan. I am working on initiative on life cycle refrigerant management. I think this group is shedding a light on destruction, and I think it's really good to unpack like what are issues around destruction. But at the same time, as many of us already touched upon, for example, institutional capacity and also how carbon markets are working on this, and also like regulation aspects. I think from our own experience, we should shed a light on specific areas of issues like destruction. But at the same time, we cannot forget that the entire works and also different pieces are done in tandem with each other. It's not going to be independent from others. So that is, of course, for the destruction part, it is very much influenced by, for example, like the reclamation part, also like a recovery part. So that is something, well, we really need also want to emphasize. Of course, we really want to have like the technologies and also finance for that is fueling for this kind of destruction technologies. But yeah, we can also explore a little bit more about the larger scope. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think here also there are some country from the LVC country, they have a limited facility in your country regarding the final destruction. And the potential another solution is that send their ODS waste to other country for their final disposal. In this case, maybe regarding the requirement of the Basel Convention and also the PIC, those things also could be also relevant. Is anyone want to share, you already have some discussion on that? This is as a potential solution for the final destruction, considering if you want to transfer the waste to other country for the disposal. Is there anyone want to share here? This is like one of the solutions mentioned here, how to transfer the waste to other country for the final disposal. This needs some of the international and regional collaboration for the ODS waste disposal. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Lady Suarez from Colombia. In Colombia, we develop different issues about the destruction. We have the regulation. We have recycling and reclaiming centers. We have e-waste policies. But all things that don't make that the waste are available for destruction. In line with the last intervention, we think that it's necessary develop all things relating, but I think that there is another issues that we can consider is that the replace program, because we need that the ways are available for the capacities. If I have policies, regulations, infrastructure, but the ways don't come to the infrastructure, there is not solution. And it's necessary to incentivize the replace programs to give an end user the way that move the new technology and we can obtain the waste. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Colombia. Yeah, very, very useful. Your suggestions regarding how to get the waste from the replace program in your country. This is very, very relevant. Considering the time of today's meeting, if no any questions, we go to the last section of today's discussion, the wrap-up of the meeting. I would like to invite Helen to give warm up the meeting.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm glad you're on this slide. You can leave it there. So in the polling, we saw every category of concern and solutions selected. And that says to me that this is a complicated problem. Certainly the primary concern was financial, but every other concern was raised as well, from this Basel Convention barrier to capacity building, and then we had a discussion which also included all of the aspects of life cycle refrigerant management. So LRM. So you can't destroy it if you don't recover it and get it back to a location where it can be destroyed. The cost concerns, I think, thank you very much, Mexico, for your further explanation, around lower volumes and going through that cement kiln process, or the rotary kiln process. That's another destruction option that it involves a retrofit of perhaps existing technologies in a country. I think we heard the concerns. If you're not making cement, you're not going to be destroying refrigerant. So that is challenging. We also, even though that's a lower cost option, there are also operating costs beyond the investment cost that's required there. I think this point from Colombia is a very interesting one. I'm sorry if it's not called this broadly, but the white goods return program, where you bring back the old one, you get a new one, and part of that program means that you're removing the refrigerant, for destruction or for end of life application. So I think this is still a complicated problem or challenge, and it is. And I think that, as was noted in the report in some places, I think it's more complex for countries with smaller volumes, and I think that there are still open questions about maybe sharing resources and being able to and funding mechanisms like Kylie described, where there's an initial fee that's paid upon refrigerant coming into the party, and then that being used for the destruction or for the end of life use, as well as we talked about 6.4, Indonesia talked about section 6.4 of the under UNFCCC, and looking at the additionality and kind of confirming that the refrigerant is truly destroyed, so that you can get that maybe that funding mechanism or that carbon credit to be available. So I think that there are some great examples of shining, encouraging news here, as far as some of the examples that we've seen. But I think that there is more work to be done and around this space. Kylie, is there anything that you would like to add? I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
No, I think you covered it, Helen.
Well, and so thank you very much. We really appreciate your insightful feedback and information. And I think that we've learned a lot today, and we hope that this is helpful in your thinking.
Thank you very much, Helen. Before the ending of this discussion, I just have two notices. The firstly, that there are many reports available from the Ozone Secretariat website regarding this workshop. Secondly, also you can also download some report regarding the technology from the TIP report, and also the COPA website. Also, there are a lot of information. It's very useful for you to know regarding the details of the technology. Second notice is that this breakout group section will be also organized in the afternoon from 2:30 to 3:45. And if your colleagues attend other breakout group, not able to attend, they just inform them, in the afternoon, they still have opportunity to participate there. This breakout group discussion. Thank you again for your time and attention. Yeah, thank you very much.
know,